I'm Eileen Roche, editor of Designs and Machine Embroidery magazine, and I'm here to talk about men's monogramming. If there's one word to describe men's monogrammed items, it's discreet. And that would be discreet in both size and in contrast or value of the thread on the fabric. Now, don't go by my samples because I stitch for photography and television, and I want to make sure that you clearly see those monograms. But if you're stitching a man's monogram for someone who you really want to wear that shirt, then I suggest using a thread that's subtle in tone and is closer to the color of the base fabric. So let's talk about where you would place it on the shirt. Well, you have quite a few options. For identification purposes only, you would put it on the inside collar, or a very popular place is on the pocket, below the pocket, or above the pocket. You may also see sometimes between the second and third button on the inside placket, not outside. If you want to put it on the outside placket, the trend is to put it down here on the shirt tail in the front. Now, a monogram on a man's left cuff is also very popular, and you may wonder, well, gee, why the left cuff? Well, I said discretion is the key, and that's because when a man extends his hand to shake, his right hand, you don't want him to shove his monogram into the other person's face. So his left hand would be discreetly at his side where the monogram would be placed. So now let's talk about letter choices and the format of the design. All of these are 3-letter monograms, and let's discuss them. This is for Edward Thomas Roch, and that's all same size, so first initial, middle initial, and last initial. Now we swap those letters when we go to a 3-letter monogram that has a large center initial. And now it reads first initial, last initial, and middle initial in that order. You can also, do a diamond shape, very popular, very traditional, or just flank the large letter by 2 smaller ones in the center. Here, I was having a little fun. He is the third in his line, and I added, the number 3. I think that's not so discreet, so I probably won't stitch that one. Let's take a look at how we go about this. We're going to start with a flap embroidery. And here we have a flannel shirt. This is a casual shirt, one that's going to be worn almost every day. So putting it on the pocket is, on the flap, is a kind of common thing to do. I'm folding my flap in half, matching top stitching to top stitching. And I'm going to place a pin right at that fold, and that's marking the center of the design area, top stitching to top stitching. And then over at my hoop, I have already hooped a water-activated tearaway stabilizer. And water-activated, what does that mean? Well, when I put a little bit of water on here, this surface now becomes sticky, and whatever I put on top of that will stick to it, which is a great thing. I'm going to use an alignment tool like this laser, and I just turn it on, and I make sure that the crosshair is hitting the cross marks on the hoop. And then when I take my shirt and put it underneath, I want to make sure that that horizontal line is positioned where my pin is, just like so. And I get it into position. Now, if I don't have enough water on there, I can dampen my cloth a little bit more and make sure that I really do activate that adhesive, because we don't want our shirt to come off of the stabilizer. And once we get that into position, we can then turn off our laser, but we may also want to use a positioning sticker in case it becomes dislodged while we travel over to the machine itself. So here I'll place my positioning sticker with the top of the sticker designating the top of the embroidery design towards the top of the pocket, and we'll turn that off. I'll set this aside, and then I'll move on to the cuff on this white shirt. This is more of a dress shirt, and I have taken the left cuff And you button the cuff. You have to find out from the gentleman what button he uses. This is very important because, you know, when we think about cuff embroidery, we often say it's on the center of the sleeve. Well, it's truly not on the center of the sleeve because when your hand is down at your side, the center of the sleeve is actually over in this area. So you need to be a little bit off of the center. So we take our template. This is a placement template that's quite handy. And what's important on this template is aligning the fold on the fold mark on the template with the fold on the actual cuff. And then there's a couple lines here. One is the outer edge cuff and one is the top stitching. Many garments have about 1/4 inch between those two edges. So you decide which one would be more appropriate for you because you do want your embroidery to be nestled down very close to that top stitching. So once that's in place, I then take a positioning marker, you know, such as this one or the one that we used before, and we align the crosshairs on that with the crosshairs on the template and position it like so. Now, we open up the cuff and probably turn this sleeve inside out. Now, you may wonder why. Well, on an embroidery machine, you have to get all of the bulk of the fabric above the hoop on a single needle machine, because we don't want to capture or stitch on this. So we turn it inside out for safety. Best way to do that. Okay, now we'll take another hoop that already has the stabilizer in place, and I line up that grid. And again, I'm going to wet my towel here and really get that to activate. And then we'll just put our sticker, aligning the sticker with the crosshair in place. Very good, that'll hold nice and tight. Now, if this is the tuxedo shirt for the wedding day or something like that, you might use pins. You might even use a little bit of tape to make sure that when you lift this hoop, nothing becomes amiss because that would be a catastrophe. So let's go over to the machine and stitch both the cuff and the flap. Now, whenever you hoop something large, well, we're not really hooping it. We're sticking it on top of the hoop, but we have a very bulky item, this whole shirt. And we don't want to get it caught under the needle or under the foot or anything like that. So we have to take our time and gently glide that hoop in and then be careful that we get the bulk of the garment over here, out of harm's way. So just give me a second to get this all settled. There we go. And you'll notice that just my pocket flap itself is down in the hoop and stuck onto that sticky stabilizer. We want to get the bulk of the shirt out of the design area, make sure that we only have the one flap, just that layer attached to the stabilizer. Keep all of this extended over the embroidery arm. And now let's finish editing our design. I've already brought in the first and middle name initials, the E and the T, and I've stacked them on top of each other. So now I'll go back to Add and into the lettering feature, and I'm going to select the R, which comes in at the largest size. So now I'll touch Set, and it is stacked right over top of my previously positioned letters. And I'll just center that. But you know, it's not quite the right size, so I'm going to go into the size feature, and I'm going to make that R a little bit bigger. So it is equal in size to my two stacked letters. All right, maybe bring that down a little. If you're not quite sure, your machine may have an editing feature that lets you zoom in and take a look. Oh, that's excellent placement. I got lucky there. So we'll touch sewing. And now, using that positioning marker, we'll tell the machine to look for that marker and let it rotate the design exactly as we planned. Now, this is where you do want to babysit your design and make sure that your shirt doesn't move out of the hoop. Remove that sticker, touch close, lower the presser foot. We're going to stitch our design. Where do you see how fast this stitch? This is a 1-minute design. This is the beauty of men's monogramming. You know, if you have a man who's been asking you for a long time to do menswear, offer to do monogramming because it's not a very large commitment. There are so many different options available for monogramming. You can do all the shirt positions that we discussed. You can also do handkerchiefs, suspenders, belts, you name it. But remember, discretion is the word when you think about men's monogramming. Our design has finished, and you can see how quickly that's stitched. And so here we have it. Isn't that beautiful? Imagine, any man would be proud to wear that. What a subtle accent to an everyday garment.